Who makes the best luxury car in the world? Britain or America? Rolls-Royce or Cadillac?
Welcome back to the Top Gear channel, and let's go find out. Because for the first time, the Rolls-Royce Spectre is going head-to-head against the USA's ultimate luxury express, the sensational Cadillac Celestiq.
Stick around as we find out which is better built, waggle my wand. Which is the quietest, which is the most comfortable, my feet will not fit under the seat in front, and who's done a better job of building the future of electric billionaire motoring. I'm a multi-billionaire rap mogul. What? I can dream.
First things first, let's set a benchmark. Travelling in a Spectre isn't really like driving. It's much more as though you're aboard a low-flying private jet or sailing a yacht on a calm sea, because your brain is completely devoid of all the normal clues that you're in a car. There is no wind noise. There is no propulsion noise. There's only the faintest murmur from the tyres, and even the noises that the car itself isn't responsible for, just the general hubbub and rumble of the outside world, is dumbed right down and cancelled. Absolutely nothing is allowed to penetrate this calmness capsule. No other car in the world can do this. There is no Bentley, there is no Mercedes that completely cocoons you from anything that your brain might find stressful or upsetting. And that's what makes the Spectre, quite simply, the most refined car in the world, ever. But there's more to the Spectre than just ghostly silence. What Rolls-Royce seems to understand better than anyone else, better than Lexus or Maybach, or even its own sugar daddy BMW, is that the ultimate luxury isn't more stuff. You're not bombarded in here by screens or technology or gimmicks. Rolls-Royce really understood the assignment with its first ever electric car, don't forget, and that's tripped up a lot of traditional car makers. But they really seem to understand that an electric car doesn't have to be futuristic. You can leave all the minimalism and the AI and the assistance systems to Tesla and the Chinese. They can squabble over that. So I've basically got the same dashboard out of a Ghost. I have the same iDrive out of a BMW 3 Series, just reskinned, sharpened slightly. I have gorgeous physical controls for making it warmer and cooler and deciding what massage I'd like. And when I decide I'd like to go forward or backwards, I simply waggle my wand. That's what Rolls-Royce just seems to innately understand, that luxury is not just exquisite materials and an absolute ton of soundproofing. It's that if you get in and you don't feel bombarded and oppressed by everything that's being beamed at you, you already start to relax before you've even set off. But if you know your rollers, you'll have spotted we didn't just bring any old Spectre to this American war of decadence. This is a Spectre Black Badge, so still a twin motor, four-wheel drive car, but instead of 576 brake horsepower, we have 650 in infinity mode. Instead of 664 foot-pounds of torque, I now have nearly 800, and that means I have a royal residence which can do 0 to 60 in 4 seconds in silence. Now, it was only right that we brought the ultimate Spectre to meet the Caddy, but I've got to admit, I'm not hugely comfortable with the idea of a sporty Rolls-Royce. This car has a slightly higher steering effort, and the revised suspension is supposed to stop it rearing up or squatting under heavy acceleration. Now that sounds a bit German, really. I want my Rolls-Royce to float about a bit. I don't want anything that could be deemed sporty anywhere near this car. There's already a company that makes something akin to a sporty Rolls-Royce. It's called Bentley. Thing is, once you've spent some time in the Black Badge, you're reassured this is in no way a spoiled Spectre. Yes, it's faster, but even then, when you're in infinity mode and you bury the throttle in that luxuriously deep pile carpet, it's considered and polite in the getaway. Your hair never even brushes the soft, sumptuous headrest. It's still a sensory deprivation spa, but it now rides on slightly tartier looking sporty wheels. And also Black Badge just unlocks the door to even more outrageous and outlandish personalization and specification options. You know, wilder colors and trims, although this car is in a very subtle one. Because ultimately the Black Badge line of Rolls-Royce is for your younger, more image-conscious billionaire. Thing is though, thanks to Cadillac invading Rolls-Royce's territory, the Spectre no longer has that very niche market all to itself.
So that's the stratospherically high level the Celestiq is aiming for. Limitless power, sumptuous materials, and a mood of serene, dignified relaxation from the company that brings you the tyre-ripping Blackwing and the airport taxi Escalade? Really? Here we go then, at last out in the wild with the Celestiq, all 18 feet of it. That's 5.5 meters Europeans, and you can tell it's big because even here in its hometown of Detroit, Michigan, it feels enormous. Look at the scale of it. This is what we want from American car design. It's outrageous and ambitious. This massive bonnet, the sweep of that lift back roof, 23-inch rims naturally, but it's good value too. It has the presence you'd want from a car that costs 350,000 US dollars, but even then, it's 105 grand less than our Rolls-Royce over there, which is all of a sudden looking a little bit dowdy. Because what could be more American than building something way bigger than the British and then charging less money for it? Having no door handles accentuates the length. It's so clean down the side, because of course you open the doors electrically by pushing a button. And though it is a 4-door, it's not desperately practical, despite being the size of an aircraft carrier. We'll have a talk about the legroom when we get inside. If I pop open what I believe they call the trunk out here, yeah, that is quite a high sill to lift your fitted designer luggage over, though, wow, bare anodized aluminium finish, absolutely stunning. Slight problem with the design of this cargo space as well, which we'll talk about again inside. But right now, forget practicality. This thing is about making a statement. And having spent a day with it now, and with the Rolls-Royce as well, I think I prefer this. As a piece of design, the Rolls-Royce is more universal. You could take it anywhere and it would be classy. Maybe this works better here in America than it does in some leafy and conservative parts of dear old England. But in a world where there's far too many amorphous, anonymous blobs that are electric cars, it could only be the ultimate Cadillac. Usually it's interior tech that ages cars prematurely, so let's dive in and see how Cadillac has balanced pixels with plushness. Before we get there though, I wanted to show you the Celestiq's first impression because, well, it's a bit too bongy. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We've got electric doors, as you'd hope for with a luxury car these days, very Rolls-Royce. I push this button, the door gracefully swoops open, but listen, constant bonging alarm, squeeze the brake pedal, door closes, still bonging. And now if that door wasn't open for the camera, it would also be bonging to tell me to put my seat belt on, which, come on, I don't want. I've got one of these. I'm a multi-billionaire rap mogul. I'm a captain of industry. I don't like being told what to do. But once it's shut up,
This is possibly the favourite interior of mine I've sat in any car this year. It's not perfect by any means, but what a first impression for a flagship. Let's start up top. You've got this huge 55-inch sweep of screens. It's actually 2 screens, this side for the driver and then the passenger gets their own one. And these 2 sections are touchscreens, which is crazy, isn't it? Because look, there's not a possible chance you could reach it. They've done that because they wanted a Google interface built in. Google will only let you use their technology if you have a touchscreen, but Cadillac didn't want you putting fingerprints everywhere. So it's a touchscreen, you can swipe at it when you're stationary. The rest of the time, the touchscreen functionality is locked and you operate it via a sort of BMW iDrive style click wheel with a flying lady in the middle of it, which is, well, it's a bit of a shots fired at Rolls-Royce, isn't it? Parking Cadillac's tanks on their lawn. Mind you, I don't know if you can see that, but there's just a bit too much wobble in that switch gear. Work on that, Cadillac. Then you've got haptic controls around here. And as you'll see everywhere, there are very few buttons. And this is minimalism done well, because although there's not many physical controls at all, it still has a richness to it and a playfulness. So the steering wheel, look at how it sprouts out of this very low dashboard in a quite kitsch 1950s way. The steering wheel's got these twin spokes. This is all 3D printed. This is the biggest piece of 3D printing that General Motors has ever done to make this steering wheel. And then the controls on here, they're not touch sensitive. These are buttons, but they have a tolerance of 2 microns. So you get this incredibly precise click when you're using them. Everything that looks like metal is metal. This is beautifully knurled. It feels super high quality. Then up here, it's kind of funny how they've nicked a Rolls-Royce trait of having a very sort of deftly sprung wand for putting the car into drive and reverse. You pull it towards you and then down and up, and yes, there's now bonging going on because I've moved it, and now it's bonging because the car's in park. So then, whereas this screen up here is all infotainment, and it's actually not too oversaturated with choice, it does this better than the touchscreen iDrive-y thing in the Roller. This ramped screen that's a bit Lucid Air, bit new Porsche Cayenne electric, less so, because there's so much going on with the car's functionality. Let me give you one example. So if we go into my seat sub-menu, then I can change temperature. So I've got heating and cooling, obviously, and I've got my multi-set massage programs, and I can do even more fine position adjustments. Okay, but take me back to the temperature. If I then tap on the seat, I can have a heated headrest air scarf thing, but I can then also cool the backrest and heat the bum rest at the same time. So you can have heating and cooling and cooling and heating, and there's 3 settings for each of those, and it's just, there's more choice there in that one screen than the entire Netflix home screen. It's probably too much, and you know what I'm going to say, bit difficult to sort out while you're driving because your eyes are down here and they should be at the end of that 20-foot long bonnet. And since I'm now into full nitpick mode, I've got a couple more for you. In the Rolls-Royce, when the door closes, it shuts with this beautiful precise click. This one, I don't know if it's something about the pillarlessness of it, but when it closes over the bonging, I don't know, the latching there, it's just a bit of a clunk. It's a bit too brutal. I'd like that to be just a bit quieter. Sounds very nitpicky, I know, but we're talking ultimates here. We're talking $350,000 cars. So the door needs to close more softly. This armrest needs to not rattle and bang when you're leaning on it. That's because that one goes backwards to reveal the cup holder. Strange. And then this one doesn't slide backwards. It folds upwards to reveal, well, a cubby hole that isn't actually big enough for a phone. Let me grab my phone, put your phone in, and doesn't close. We're not really hot on storage in here, are we? But you have got a second cup holder in here, and opening this door does reveal one of my favourite details inside the Celestiq. These engraved silhouettes of Cadillac flagships of the past. Love that attention to detail. Not sure about the Premier League footballers' worktop that they've made this centre tunnel out of, but like I said, this is not a perfect cabin by any means. It's not as professional and as classically luxurious as the Rolls-Royce, but I love the imagination. Interesting, isn't it, that when you climb into the back of a Celestiq, there is no bonging. Now, I simply flip up this lovely fillet of metal door handle and my invisible butler closes the door for me, still a little bit of a clunk. And let's address the elephant in the room straight away. For a car that is the size of a city block, the room in here is not palatial, okay? I'm exactly 6 foot tall. This is left in my driving position. And look, I've got tons of knee room, no problem. I've got loads of headroom, but you haven't really got loungeability space. You know, there is no built-in leg rest, there is no foot massager, and my feet will not fit under the seat in front, which is just what leads to it feeling not cramped, but perhaps not as enormous back here as you might have expected. Then again, if you're not enormous and what you want is privacy rather than masses of space, you'll like this, because look, this is where the paparazzi are poking their lenses in, but you're all the way back here. You're actually almost looking out of this quarter light. Anyway, once you're back here, you don't want to be getting bored, do you? So what have you got to entertain you? Well, if you like materials, leather, the stitching, this beautiful grille here, it's almost like marquetry. They definitely haven't skimped backwards like they do in some cars where you feel that they've mainly concentrated the money up front. We've got dual window controls. I've of course got this little screen here where I can have my own seat position. I've got this one nicely reclined right now. I can heat it, I can ventilate it. I've got my own massage programs. And then you really get stuck into the toys. So by tapping tint here, my enormous glass roof, which gives me a fantastic view of the drizzle in the Detroit skyline, well, I can individually tint different sections of it. So I can shade the passenger over there. I can shade myself. Look, I've got a nice sort of Battenberg cake pattern now, a checkerboard in the roof. Here, I've got cup holders. I've got USBs. I've actually got HDMI ports, so you can plug your Xbox into this screen, which we're about to look at. I've got non-rattly armrests, interesting. And underneath there, well, loads of storage, more USB ports. And then if we dive into this screen, here's all your streaming services, so YouTube, Disney+, there's a full web browser. You can put on your headphones and experience the Dolby Atmos sound, and I can see how efficiently my chauffeur is using, well, my electricity, because I can have my speedo, the range, trip information and efficiency is all built in to here. The longer you're back here though, you just notice some really exceptional detailing. Really like these polished coat hooks, even damping on this handle. You ready? Look at that. Soft and silent, Celestiq logo milled in next to your hex bolts. They've really tried to create something which is, yeah, old school luxury with a modern twist. Doesn't feel traditional. And that kind of shows with one last thing. You know, I said the boots had a bit of a flaw. Well, yeah, it's kind of open to the car. There is no bulkhead here. There is no partition. So not only does that mean that any kind of noise that's swirling around back here is obviously shared with the passenger cabin, but as we found out on this shoot, when you're driving around, any luggage you've left back there, if you brake, basically uses this armrest as a runway, uses this screen as a stunt ramp, and launches itself onto the dashboard. So I do think Cadillac are actually working now on some sort of bulkhead that's going to go here and separate off the boot. But come on, if you've got a white carpet for your luggage space trunk area, you're not worried about practicality, are you? Worried about indulgence. And yeah, this car is absolutely full of it. So the Cadillac looks phenomenal. It has the right balance of technology, and it's got quite simply the coolest interior of any American car since Cadillac's chrome and fins heyday. But this is where it could all go so wrong for the Celestiq, the driving, because it doesn't have a blue-blooded aristocratic background. You see, the Spectre is based on the same platform that Rolls-Royce puts under the Ghost and the Phantom. This sits on General Motors' Ultium battery architecture, which is what you find underneath the Hummer EV, which is the stupidest car in the world. I know they've added on bespoke, massive aluminium subframes front and rear to create this limousine, but ultimately trying to outcruise Rolls-Royce with the underpinnings from a Hummer is like making a concert grand piano out of firewood.
So, has it worked?
Well, like the love it, hate it bodywork and the brilliant and mad interior, it's a mixed bag in quite a charming way. So first, the powertrain is fantastic. There's no motor whine, there's loads of power, but it's how that power is deployed and used in an EV which is crucial, and Cadillac has got this spot on. You don't smash everyone's heads back into the headrest when you jump on the power, but if you want to, you can press the V button on the steering wheel. V is like Cadillac's kind of performance car line, and if you press the V button, you get a sharper throttle response, and it will do 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, which is travelling for something weighing 3.1 tons. But again, we're not in a performance car here, we're in a luxury car, and that's why what matters is how they've mapped the brake pedal. Very tricky with such a heavy car that's trying to regen power, but there's none of that horrible hissing and feedback through the brakes. When you jump on them, it oozes this car. Steering's good as well, actually. It's quite light, works really well with the rear steer, which is absolutely crucial in a car of this size. And you just can't believe that it would be anything approaching agile, but the car responds nicely. I'm not saying it's in any way begging me to hustle it, but your elbows find themselves on the armrests, you guide the car along, and it starts relaxing you. Problem is that when you work the steering, if you've got to really turn into a corner, you hear the electric motor whine ever so slightly, but you don't get that in the Rolls-Royce. And then you realise that you can also hear that armrest rattling, and you can hear the cushions breathing in and out in the massage seat, just creaking ever so slightly. I'm sure the microphone can't pick any of this up, but your ears can when you're in the car. When everything else is so quiet, it's those little annoyances that creep in. And then you realise you can hear more of the outside world. You can hear more of what the tyres are up to. So all told, the Celestiq doesn't isolate you as hermetically from the outside world as well as the Rolls-Royce does. And it's the same story with the ride. Now this particular Celestiq is on the 23-inch wheels. I'm told that the engineers prefer it on the 22s, and people I know have driven the car wearing those say it's better, but this thing's designed to make a statement. You're going to probably have the 23s. It does improve as the car goes faster, as this active ride control system gets to work. I mean, Cadillac are really proud of the fact this car will lean into corners, but I'd rather it almost didn't have that dynamic ability, but was slightly better at just rounding off rough roads. That said, if you do want to go quickly, then this car wants to be hustled a lot more than the Rolls-Royce does. In the Spectre, you're amazed it goes round corners at all, because frankly it should have a ship's wheel, but this, you're lower, the car's centre of gravity feels lower, it pitches and dives less, the body control is exceptional. So if you do want an ultimate luxury EV that can also be a little bit sports saloon, and I appreciate that's a very niche ask, then that's what the Celestiq can give you. I guess the flip side to it not being as refined as the Roller is because it's easier to see out of, it's glassier, and because its responses are more car-like, it's actually a little bit less intimidating when you first get into it, because you recognise it more as a car and you can actually put it into sport mode and be a bit silly with it if you want. So what do we think then? I'm impressed, but I didn't come all the way to Detroit to be impressed. I came to be staggered and bowled over and agog. And I am by the Celestiq's looks. and its swagger and its character. But the thing about a luxury car business like Rolls-Royce that's been doing it for 100 years is there's certain things that never go out of fashion, like how well your car rides bumps, how quietly it goes down the road, and the Celestiq is beating all ends up on those fundamentals. I've got to say that almost everyone we've stopped and talked to in Detroit, they only want to look at the Cadillac. They are proud that it's from this town. It makes them proud to be an American. And that's what this car is. It's a great flagship for Cadillac, for General Motors, and for the American car industry to even compete at making ultimate luxury expresses again. And let's not forget a couple of things. This is £100,000 cheaper than the Spectre. It is going to be rarer than the Spectre. And for a certain type of person who finds the whole Rolls-Royce British upper class toff thing maybe a little bit stuffy, this very much is the kind of fresh prince of new electric luxury. In a world where it often feels like cars are getting more generic, more badge engineered, this is something truly different, weird, wacky, wild, and wonderful. And there's no shame in it not being perfect. Of course there isn't. Except in that one moment, it comes up against a car which might genuinely be approaching flawlessness.
Right then, one incredible city, thank you Detroit, and two phenomenal cars. Whether you like EVs or not, you've got to agree these are sensational machines from manufacturers absolutely at the top of their game. But I gave you a question at the start, best luxury car in the world? I hope you'll agree we've given the Celestiq the fairest crack of the whip possible, and we've absolutely loved it. I adore this thing, the confidence of it, the will to try something different. This thing is now the celebrity in American motoring, where a Cybertruck is now a total embarrassment. This is the thing you want to be seen in. But if you want the deathliest silence, the richest materials, the standard of the world, the Cadillac of luxury cars, it's still a Rolls-Royce.